I kind of broke everything down as far as like the question, does time heal all wounds? And first and foremost, I wanted to look at what it actually means to heal. And then more or less in this particular question, it's to alleviate a person's distress or anguish. So as Brian said, at face value, and as both of you said, it's really what you make it. What are you putting in as time progresses to get you to not necessarily a end goal, but what are you getting yourself to the point where you're emotionally and spiritually able to assess what has happened to you, take the positives from it, understand the negatives, but no longer let it affect you on a level to where it throws you off your game. So I kind of based off that analysis of it, I kind of broke it down into three questions, or not three questions, but three factors. Those three factors to me, just off the top of my head, is that the person has to be willing to grow and mature with time. That essentially means is that like you're not putting yourself into the same similar similar environments or settings that could have potentially triggered that harmful event to you. And before I go any further, I just want to say that based off of Brian's example of it and then your example of it, it kind of brings into perspective or full circle how there's so many moving factors with this question itself. Like you can look at this on a macro level, or you can look at it on a micro level, and you can really like we just did. You could take what you want from it and arrive at different conclusions. But at the end of the day, like there's certain factors that you cannot necessarily change, like the death of a family member. But it could be some things where it's like a personal decision or a relationship decision that you've made, and you could have potentially made a better decision during that time, but you didn't have the maturity and the presence of mind to make the proper decision right there. So that's when that time can potentially heal the wounds, with understanding what you did wrong and choosing to grow and mature. Second, the person has to be willing to let what was done be done, which essentially means to stop reliving it and looking at what you could have potentially done better, because essentially you're going to overthink. In hindsight, and this is what essentially helped me with my depression, was understanding that hindsight is always 2020. With my theoretical mind, I can look at anything I've done in the past and say, okay, yeah, I could have said this or I could have done that. Anybody can look at it like that, but it doesn't make the situation any better, because you're living off a reality of what is instead of what is. And then third, the person has to be willing to accept the grief that comes with whatever has happened and learn to analyze what factors cause that grief. Now, of course, you can't take this and apply it to death, but you can definitely take this and apply it to any, personal development of any sort. And I think the most important factor of time healing the wound is this particular factor right here, is to be willing to accept the grief. Because a lot of people, they'll deal with antidepressants of any sort. You can be, pushing things aside, playing video games. You can, try and drink yourself to the point where you don't feel anything. You smoke to where, you don't necessarily have the, you don't have the presence of mind to deal with whatever's bothering you at that particular moment. But at some point, it always comes back, and it's something that you have to be able to address and not run from it. Because if you're constantly running from it, then you're just running with time. You're not necessarily making the most of it.